August 3rd, 1914, the fragile peace that had held Europe together for decades finally collapsed entirely. On this fateful day, Imperial Germany officially declared war on France, accelerating a chain reaction of alliances that could no longer be stopped. Looking at the heavily fortified Franco-German border, the German High Command knew a direct assault would be too slow and costly. To achieve a rapid, decisive victory, they put a long-held, radical strategy into motion. German forces began pouring across the border into the small, peaceful nation of Belgium. By crossing this frontier, Germany did more than just launch a military strike. They deliberately violated international sovereignty and tore up decades of diplomatic treaties. The quiet Belgian border villages were suddenly awash with the gray uniforms of the advancing German army, their boots stamping out any hope for a localized conflict. This aggressive, unprovoked maneuver forced the hand of the world's greatest superpower at the time, the British Empire. What began as a regional dispute in the Balkans was now irreversibly transformed into a world-shattering conflict, drawing the entire globe into the horrors of total war.
Why this day unfolded with such terrifying velocity, we must analyze the strategic logic behind the invasion, the infamous Schlieffen Plan. Devised years earlier, the plan was a high-stakes gamble designed to solve Germany's greatest geopolitical nightmare, a two-front war against France in the west and Russia in the east. The strategy relied entirely on speed. The German army needed to knock France out of the war within 6 weeks before the massive Russian military could fully mobilize. The easiest and fastest route to Paris lay through the flat, open plains of Belgium, bypassing the formidable French border fortresses. However, Belgium's neutrality was not just a preference, it was guaranteed by the Treaty of London, signed in 1839 by Europe's major powers, including Prussia itself. When German troops crossed that line, it sent massive diplomatic shockwaves through every capital in Europe. For Great Britain, the breach of Belgian neutrality was both a strategic threat and a profound moral dilemma. Economically and militarily, Britain could not allow a hostile, aggressive Germany to control the English Channel ports right across from its own coast. Morally, Britain had signed that very same 1839 treaty, promising to defend Belgium if it were ever attacked. The German Chancellor dismissively referred to the treaty as a mere scrap of paper, but to the British government and its public, it was a binding legal and moral obligation that they simply could not ignore.
As night began to fall across Europe, the clock was ticking frantically for the British government in London. Behind closed doors in Downing Street and Parliament, British statesmen wrestled with the gravity of the moment. The atmosphere was thick with tension, anxiety, and a deep sense of historical dread. Frantic final hours of diplomacy took place through coded telegraphs flying between London, Berlin, and Brussels. King Albert of Belgium made a direct emotional appeal to King George V for military support. In response, the British government delivered a stern, uncompromising ultimatum to Berlin. Germany must halt its invasion and withdraw its troops from Belgian soil immediately, or Britain would declare war. The deadline was set for midnight, Berlin time, on August 4th. In Berlin, the British ambassador met with German officials, who expressed shock that Britain would go to war over a legal technicality. But the die had been cast. As the hours slipped away with no response from the Kaiser, the reality set in. The moment the ultimatum expired, the British Empire, spanning a quarter of the globe, effectively committed itself to a catastrophic struggle on the European continent, a war from which there would be no turning back. By the time August 3rd, 1914 drew to a close, the psychological and political landscape of Europe had been irreversibly changed. The illusions of the 19th century were shattered in a single day. Sir Edward Grey, the British Foreign Secretary, looked out his window in London as the street lamps were being lit and famously remarked, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." He was tragically correct. This specific date solidified the two massive opposing coalitions, the Allied powers and the Central powers, that would define the next 4 years of unprecedented bloodshed. The entry of the British Empire meant that this would not be a short European border conflict. It meant the mobilization of millions of soldiers from Canada, Australia, India, and Africa. Factories shifted from civilian production to manufacturing artillery shells, machine guns, and chemical weapons. The invasion of Belgium had lit a fuse that would explode into trench warfare, the destruction of ancient empires, and the loss of an entire generation of young men. The world had stepped over the precipice and into the abyss. The invasion of Belgium on August 3, 1914, was the ultimate catalyst, the single pivotal event that expanded a regional European crisis into a devastating global tragedy. It proved that in the arena of global geopolitics, the actions taken against a small, sovereign nation can ignite a firestorm that consumes the entire world. As we look back at the outbreak of the First World War, we are left with profound questions that still echo in modern international relations. How do you assess the role of strategic military necessity versus international law? Was Germany's desperate gamble justified by the pressures of geopolitics, or was Britain's defense of a treaty the right moral and legal stance to take? History is not just a collection of dates. It is a mirror reflecting the choices we make today. We want to hear your perspective on this turning point. Share your thoughts, insights, and analysis in the comments section below. If you found this detailed exploration of World War I valuable, please hit the like button, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll join our community for more deep dives into the powerful stories, conflicts, and decisions that have shaped the human journey. Thank you for watching, stay curious, and we will see you in the next chapter of history.